Good evening, dear viewers, and welcome to our live special coverage that will bring you the main updates, news, and events about the democratic process of the National Assembly elections 2022, coming to you from our studios in the Ministry of Information. Let me first introduce my colleague Adla Demoughay, who will join me today in covering this special episode titled The Parliamentary Election 2022 Democracy in Kuwait.
Thank you, Ahmed, and welcome, dear viewers, to our exclusive hour that will shed light on the electoral process in Kuwait's 5 constituencies via our reporters who are distributed around the country to keep us updated.
Today, Kuwaitis woke up to practice their constitutional right of voting in the second elections since His Highness the Emir Sheikh Nawaf Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah took office. The National Assembly is Kuwait's legislative authority and is mandated to observe the work of the executive authority and issue laws which come into effect after being ratified by His Highness the Emir. According to the General Department for Election Affairs, 305 potential candidates can compete in the race of the parliamentary elections.
His Highness the late Emir Sheikh Abdullah Salim Sabah issued a decree in 1961 to form the Higher Council tasked with organizing the Constituent Assembly elections. The law specified that candidates had to be 30 years old and well-versed in reading and writing the Arabic language. On the occasion of holding the Constituent Assembly's first session, Sheikh Abdullah Salim gave a speech in which His Highness emphasized the importance of democracy in building a modern state. Currently, the National Assembly's 50 members are elected by their constituents that are divided into 5 electoral districts, in which each electoral constituency elects 10 MPs. The Cabinet has officially declared September 29th as the date of the National Assembly elections for this year. Setting the stage for the parliamentary elections, the Cabinet adopted several decrees in preparation, such as Decree 147, in which the Cabinet decided to suspend work at all government bodies on September 29th, declaring it a day off. Government bodies and authorities work in collaboration to ensure fair and inclusive elections, which are pivotal to the quality of a country's governance. Consequently, the Ministry of Interior affirmed that every Kuwaiti citizen is automatically added to the roster of voters upon 21 years of age. Voters must present their national certificates and civil identification cards on election day. Those who lost their nationality certificates can obtain temporary ones from the Passports and Citizenship Affairs General Department. All eligible voters can verify their voting registration at the local police stations corresponding to their residential addresses on their civil ID cards. For the first time in history, voters are able to vote with only their civil ID cards, according to the actual and permanent place of residence of each citizen. The Cabinet also issued an emergency decree adding new residential areas to the existing 5 electoral districts to allow eligible voters in those areas to participate in the polls, increasing expectations with great momentum in the number of candidates. The day of voting starts from 8 a.m. and proceeds until 8 p.m. local time, during which Kuwaitis will vote to elect 50 members of parliament for the new legislative term from hundreds of candidates running during the elections. The Ministry of Interior has designated dozens of schools according to their respective constituencies as election centers, while Kuwait Municipality, in coordination with the Ministry of Education, is distributing field teams across the districts to prepare and equip the schools to host voters casting their ballots during the election. After the voting process concludes in the election centers at 8 p.m., the ballot boxes will be closed and taken for the official count, where the process takes several hours as ballot papers are counted manually. The election results will be announced officially on the State of Kuwait's television as well as radio channels and other media outlets.
National Assembly Elections 2022, a constitutional entitlement and a national duty for preserving democratic gains and correcting the course. The people are the ones who choose. They are the ones who redraw the political scene. A national phase in which everyone unites for the sake of the homeland. National Assembly Elections 2022, correcting the course.
Welcome back, our viewers, to our live coverage of the National Assembly 2022. Now, let's welcome with us our dear guest, Dr. Aid Al-Manna, a professor of political sciences at Kuwait University and a political analyst who will join us in the special episode to discuss a host of key issues regarding the democracy in Kuwait and the political developments. Dr. Manna, welcome to our show.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We'll start off with our first question. As Kuwait is celebrating this democratic event, and since the beginning of the voting process earlier today, how do you see the participation level overall of the voters?
Honestly, I noticed that there is a turnout very good to some extent. I voted in the 4 constituency, and I noticed there were so many people coming early in the morning, and that means during the day there will more people to come and exercise their right to vote for their candidates. I hope the turnout will be more than 70 or around this 70% of the electoral qualified people for this respect.
Yes, Doctor, as you know, the importance to activate the role of the Kuwaiti citizens in this democratic event. From your observation in the morning when you went to vote, do you think the Kuwaiti citizens are aware now and they have the knowledge needed for the coming elections?
They are aware, definitely, of what they are going to do. Those actually who came to vote definitely know their candidates before they come, and probably few people who might be confused to choose whom. Definitely also that the Kuwaiti have a great experience, 60 years. Maybe the new generation now learning how to act and exercise their right. But also we have in other places, trade unions, for instance, we exercise our right to vote for candidates. And that means there is nobody ignorant of exercising his right and knowing who is the candidate, because you know that it's just one to choose. That makes it probably difficult for any person. But I think it is quite possible that anyone come with the candidate he want to choose in his mind and go through the alphabetical and Arabic language and find his candidate and sign, give the mark for his name, and that's all. Everything is actually made easy for the people, voters, to come and exercise their right, whether from the Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Health. They all actually cooperating to facilitate this great occasion for the Kuwaiti to exercise their political right to vote for their own National Assembly, which we hope it will be better than the one before.
Yes. Dr. Aid, we're going to take a short break and we're going to join Adla to check with our correspondents. Please stay with us. After this break, Adla will bring us the latest updates from the different voting centers.
بسم الله العلي القدير يفتتح الآن أعمال المجلس التأسيسي لدولة الكويت المستقلة.
إننا نعيش الآن في بلادنا نهضة شاملة لم يسبق لها مثيل.
إنني من على هذا المنبر أوجه بالنيابة عنكم تحية وتقدير واحترام لأهلنا في الكويت
حتى نواصل العمل الذي لا يتوقف لخدمة الكويت العزيزة.
لقد تأكدت بأنني من يحمي الدستور ولن أسمح بالمساس به.
مخلصين العمل الجاد لخير ورفعة الكويت وأهلها الأوفياء.
اختيار القوي الأمين الذي يضع مصلحة الكويت وشعبها فوق كل اعتبار.
Welcome back, our dear viewers, to our live coverage tonight of the National Assembly 2022. Now we're going to go and join Adla to give us the latest updates about the different electoral centers, where we have our correspondents there bringing us the latest updates.
Welcome back, dear viewers, and let's join our correspondents and reporters from around Kuwait's 5 constituencies to bring us the latest updates about the electoral process after closing the voting polls. Good evening.
Good evening once again.
Is this Iman Ramadan?
I am.
Iman Ramadan, please can you tell us how is the countdown for now, from the start and the end throughout the day, please?
Right now I'm here at Ben Rashid Elementary School, Boys in Feiha. It's quite past 8 p.m. right now, which is meaning that the doors of the schools are closed off from any citizens who have not yet voted. But so far I'm seeing quite a number of voters who have filled their ballots for fulfilling their civic and democratic duty. And so far there's still several voters right now. So once they're done, the school's already emptied, as we know. It's actually where the main election council of the 2nd constituency. Once the school is locked up, the judges and the officials from the Ministry of Justice will start or begin to count the final tally of the vote, final countdown for the ballot votes. And from then we'll be seeing who wins for the election of 2022, inshallah.
Thank you so much, Iman Ramadan.
You're welcome.
Mohammed Al Khalaf.
Good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
I'm good.
Can you please tell us about the efforts exerted by the concerned bodies to secure the voting process in your area?
All right, so 40 minutes ago, the doors had all been closed in all polling stations around Kuwait. We are here at the 1st constituency, specifically at Abdullah Abdul Latif School for Boys, where they will announce the winners of the parliament seats. 185 potential votes will be counted throughout the night to determine the 10 seats in the parliament. So this school is meant for announcing the winners, only which all the ballot boxes will be gathered here with the escort of the Ministry of Interior personnel. We'll keep you updated in the coming hours regarding the voting process. However, all the governmental bodies made a huge effort in order for this parliament race to success. So as we can see through all the day, everything was perfect. Alhamdulillah, Ministry of Information did a remarkable job in covering all the schools and all constituencies. Back to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for our correspondence, and now back to Ahmed.
National Assembly Elections 2022, a constitutional entitlement and a national duty for preserving democratic gains and correcting the course. The people are the ones who choose. They are the ones who redraw the political scene. A national phase in which everyone unites for the sake of the homeland. National Assembly Election. National Assembly Elections 2022, a constitutional entitlement and a national duty for preserving democratic gains and correcting the course. The people are the ones who choose. They are the ones who redraw the political scene. A national phase in which everyone unites for the sake of the homeland. National Assembly Elections 2022, correcting
باسم الله العلي القدير يفتتح الآن أعمال المجلس التأسيسي لدولة الكويت المستقلة.
إننا نعيش الآن في بلادنا نهضة شاملة لم يسبق لها مثيل.
إنني من على هذا المنبر أوجه بالنيابة عنكم تحية وتقدير واحترام لأهلنا في الكويت
حتى نواصل العمل الذي لا يتوقف لخدمة الكويت العزيزة.
لقد أكدت بأنني من يحمي الدستور ولن أسمح بالمساس به.
مخلصين للعمل الجاد لخير ورفعة الكويت وأهلها الأوفياء.
اختيار القوي الأمين الذي يضع مصلحة الكويت وشعبها فوق كل اعتبار.
Good evening, Farid Dashti from the 5th constituency. Are you there? Farid? I think there has been a technical problem.
Yalla, I'm stand by.
Farid? Can you hear me?
Yes?
As the countdown
Yes,
started,
I can hear you.
As the countdown started for the closing of the electoral polls, how can you describe the flow of voters throughout the day?
Yeah. First of all, I would like to greet you and say good evening to everybody, to all Kuwait and our dear viewers. Definitely, the ballots, as you can see behind me, I don't know if you can see it. Everybody, preparing to count the ballots here, and people really at the beginning the flow was weak, but then it started increasing more and more. And I think as like more than one indication. There are a lot of indications that the voting passed 70%, I believe. That's from what I noticed from asking a lot of questions, the consultants.
Can you please tell us about the efforts exerted by the concerned bodies to secure the voting process in your area?
Sorry, again, could you repeat that question again?
Can you please tell us about the efforts exerted by the concerned bodies to secure the voting process?
Oh yeah, absolutely, definitely, we raise and we salute the men of the Ministry of Interior, police officers, judges, and we have here with us, by the way, the consultant, Dr. Saad Nasser Al-Ajmi from the 5th constituency. Dr. Saad, it's a pleasure to have you with us here, and we want to know exactly, I hope everything is going smooth to you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Inshallah, everything is under control, and we hope the election today, as we hope, all the people, the voters, is just at 8 o'clock p.m. we close the last one.
And now we are going to count.
Until now, we prepare the ballots, and we write our papers until we wait the order from the main committee.
Okay, so you don't count until
until
you receive an order.
Sure.
Okay. And then after you finish counting, what's going to happen?
We will start.
Okay.
We will start each box, how many in it, and we will add it. We are subcommittees is 5, and we are the main, the 6th, and we will transfer to the head committee, and they will add all the boxes
together.
Yeah.
And then they will declare the final results.
Sure. They will.
Okay.
Not us. They will.
They will. And
we are six boxes from maybe 200.
Okay. So, Consultant Dr. Nasser, tell us about the smoothness. There was any problem? Were there any problems today?
Alhamdulillah, everything is under control, and our people is understand, and they understood what this day mean.
Okay. Any last word you want to say for the people?
Everything for Kuwait is well, and for the people, inshallah.
Thank you, Consultant Dr. Saad Nasser Al-Ajmi. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Shukran.
As you heard, the consultant, Dr. Saad Nasser Al-Ajmi, saying everything is smooth and people finished, voters finished voting, and definitely they're going to prepare the ballots for counting, but they have to receive an order from the main committee or the head committee in the 5th constituency to start the count.
Thank you so much, Farid. And now let's get back to Ahmed and his distinguished guest in the studio.
National Assembly Elections 2022, a constitutional entitlement and a national duty for preserving democratic gains and correcting the course. The people are the ones who choose. They are the ones who redraw the political scene. A national phase in which everyone unites for the sake of the homeland. National Assembly Elections 2022, correcting the course.
Welcome back, our dear viewers, to our live coverage. We are back now with our distinguished guest, Dr. Aid Al-Manna, with more questions. Doctor, as you've seen, Kuwait has been the most open political system in the Gulf countries. It was the first one to adopt a constitution in 1962 and established a National Assembly in the following year. Now, Doctor, could you explain to us more or tell us what is the role of the Kuwaiti Constitution as it is the pillar here in the Gulf countries?
Well, any constitution in the world, it is actually the law which is the higher law and the source of other laws, actually. No law should differentiate from the constitution. If there is any differentiation, the law must be changed or corrected to cope with the constitution. The constitution is actually the criteria in which all the authorities follow the line and respect. For instance, you have the separation of powers. We have 3 powers: the executive, legislative, and the judiciary. And they all separated according to Article 50 in the Kuwaiti Constitution. But they all cooperated with each other, without any one of them relinquishing any of its competence to the other. And that's all these actually equal in their respect. You have government or executive, and you have the legislators or parliament or elected people, and you have the judges and the courts and these people who are dealing with applying and explaining the laws.
Yeah, and cooperation between all 3 different bodies is very important.
It is actually a constitutional requirement. It's not just actually a wish to say, but it is actually a requirement. I carried for you that the system of government is based on the principles of separation of powers.
Yes.
Functioning in cooperation with each other in accordance with the provision of the Constitution. None of the powers may relinquish all part of its competence specified in this Constitution.
Yes. Doctor, you mentioned the different role of the executive and the legal department and also the legislative ones. Now, the cooperation between all three bodies is critical. Now, how do you see and evaluate the cooperation right now between the government and the parliament and the previous parliaments that we've seen?
Well, actually, it's going up down sometimes. You know that we don't have political parties, and we do not have a majority elected by the people and form the government. As you know, the system, for instance, in all Western Europe, India, and other countries, we don't have this kind. We have actually individuals standing for the election as candidates for the National Assembly. Some of them, the Constitution made it clear that the government actually should be formed from the National Assembly and from others. And probably we can explain the priority is from the National Assembly. But because the number of members of parliament is not that big enough to act as legislators and supervisors for the government work, usually in Kuwait, one or two or sometimes four, like the last cabinet, being taken from the National Assembly. But at the same time, the non-elected ministers, the non-elected ministers should be actually member of parliament by the virtue of their functions. They are member by the virtue of their functions. But if they lose the seat in the government as ministers, not elected, they get out. But if the member of parliament loses his seat as member of the cabinet, he returns to the seats of the National Assembly as member of parliament. And that's the big difference between the two.
Yeah, Dr. Eid, we discussed earlier about the functions of the ministers and the members of parliament in terms of taking part in committees and voting process inside the National Assembly. Could you explain a little bit more to our viewers the functions and roles of the ministers and members of parliament?
Well, definitely the ministers are government. They are the executive power. They are actually coming with the portfolio. They have to speak on behalf of the government. They actually executing the policy of the government. They are responsible to their action, to His Highness the Amir, and also to the National Assembly. While the National Assembly, a member of the National Assembly, they are free actually to act on behalf of the nation, of the people. They discuss all the matters. They actually propose laws or acting laws. Also, they actually questioning ministers, and they also interpolating prime minister and ministers with their competence, and probably it might come for the ministers to vote of no confidence. But for the prime minister, there is no vote of confidence, but there is actually a vote of no cooperation with the prime minister. And that's actually raised to the Amir, the head of the state, and it's up to the Amir either to dismiss the prime minister and appoint another one, or to dissolve the National Assembly and call for a new election. And that's when the dispute happened. Actually, in the last parliament of 2020, unfortunately, there were no cooperation between the members of the parliament among themselves, and also with the government also. There were a kind of desperate disputes between the two authorities. And that's why His Highness the Emir decided to intervene and solve the problem by, as the Emir's speech in 22nd of June 22.
We're going to talk more in details about that. We're going to come to that. But right now, we're going to go to Adla. She has a report prepared for us regarding the National Assembly. Back to you, Adla.
The state of Kuwait has known democracy for over a century when in 1921 the first consultative council was formed. Since the founding of Kuwait, the people were given the chance to co-run the affairs of the country, thus substantiating the genuine spirit of democracy in the Kuwaiti society on Shura. The state of Kuwait's long history of consultative governance spearheaded a pioneering democratic experience that was crowned by the 1962 Constitution. Here's the story.
Progress towards democracy in the modern world is typically measured in terms of elections. The chief marker of a transition to democracy is a free and fair election of the legislative and executive branches of government. In this year's election, Kuwait practices a democratic heritage stretching back over a century ago. The origin of the Kuwaiti democratic experience goes back to the late 18th century when the merchant families of the small fishing and dive-pearling town of Kuwait chose a well-respected member of one of the families, His Highness Sheikh Sabah I bin Jabr Sabah, as their ruler to handle the daily affairs of the Kuwaiti society in consultation with the community. At the time, it was agreed upon that rule of the country was established within the firm context of consultation or shura. This political formula created complete interdependence between the ruler and the ruled, a joint governance. Decades later, initiatives for democratic reform came from the ruler, the merchant families, and the emerging political grouping of younger, educated Kuwaitis, reaching its peak with the state of Kuwait's independence in 1961. The democratic process was furthered and culminated in the decision to become a constitutional monarchy, an elected legislature, and a constitution within a year. The state of Kuwait succeeded in establishing an unprecedented democratic system in the Arab region, and in comparison to the rest of the GCC countries, Kuwait's practice of democracy is a prominent one and is one of the best and fair experiences of democracy in the Arab world. The Kuwaiti application of democratic life and the sustainability of the culture of popular participation serves as an anchor for the normal growth of democracy, and thus the state of Kuwait is seen as a pillar of stability in the Gulf. A struggle for democracy continued in the subsequent years, but results were different depending on the local and regional circumstances and variables. The 1990 to 1991 Iraqi invasion and occupation of Kuwait spurred the keenness to fully embrace meaningful popular participation in national politics, and thus the October 1992 general election was the most important in Kuwait's democratic history. It was the clearest evidence of the union between government and citizens, and it revealed the extent liberalization and democracy were being embraced by the nation. Now, voter registration is at record high levels, suggesting that Kuwaiti democracy is set to carry on with steadfastness and strength. Democracy embedded itself as an aspect of national identity, which Kuwaiti citizens regarded with pride. Now, the Kuwaiti democratic experiment appears to have only strengthened and endured.
بسم الله العلي القدير يفتتح الآن أعمال المجلس التأسيسي لدولة الكويت المستقلة.
إننا نعيش الآن في بلادنا نهضة شاملة لم يسبق لها مثيل.
إنني من على هذا المنبر أوجه بالنيابة عنكم تحية وتقدير واحترام لأهلنا في الكويت
حتى نواصل العمل الذي لا يتوقف لخدمة الكويت العزيزة.
لقد تأكدت بأنني من يحمي الدستور ولن أسمح بالمساس به.
مخلصين للعمل الجاد لخير ورفعة الكويت وأهلها الأوفياء.
اختيار القوي الأمين الذي يضع مصلحة الكويت وشعبها فوق كل اعتبار.
That was a special report about the democracy in the state of Kuwait. And now let's join our correspondent Mohammed Al Jasmi from the 3rd electoral constituency to provide us with new updates. Good evening.
Good evening, Adla.
Good evening, Mohammed. Please, can you tell us what are the updates from your electoral constituency?
Well, currently the ballots are being funneled into the school right now, and I'm at the Aidaliya Elementary School for Girls, which is a main committee where all the judges will count all the votes and will present the final tally as soon as the final vote has been counted. Now, as for the flow of voters, there have been many long queues, but very quickly and smoothly and orderly have they been moving along. And in my constituency particularly, there are 138,000 voters, and there's 51% of them that are female. And out of the candidates, 47 candidates, 9 of them are women. So there is an abundance of energy here. Many new faces in the candidates, a lot more voters from the previous election, and the long queues of people and the orderly fashion of this election shows the patriotic duty that is being fulfilled, as well as the cooperation between both citizens and the officials from all involved governmental bodies.
Thank you so much, Mohammed Al Jasmi. In our next report, the National Assembly is the legislative authority of the state of Kuwait that has a mandate of legislation and oversight on the executive authority's work and implementation of laws. The Assembly is composed of 50 members elected directly by universal suffrage in accordance with the provisions prescribed by the electoral law. Here are more details about the Kuwaiti National Assembly in the following report.
The National Assembly is a unicameral legislature of Kuwait in which the members are chosen through direct election, and, upon winning, members usually form informal parliamentary blocks. The National Assembly also has the power to remove government ministers from their post, while MPs frequently exercise their constitutional right to interpellate government members. The third chapter of the Constitution of Kuwait, issued in 1962, described the articles and competencies of the legislative authorities in 3 main areas. The first, of legislative affairs, includes bills, decrees, and treaties. The second regards political affairs, including decisions, proposals, questions, interpellations, requests for debate, inquiries, and receiving petitions and complaints from citizens. And the last regards financial affairs, including the discussions, debates, and ratifications of public budgets and their annual final accounts, as well as the approval of the Assembly's budget. The Constitution limits the size of the Cabinet to 16, and at least 1 member of Cabinet must be an elected MP. The Cabinet Ministers have the same rights as elected MPs, with 2 exceptions. They do not participate in the work of committees, and they cannot vote when an interpellation leads to a no-confidence vote against one of the Cabinet Ministers.
National Assembly Elections 2022, a constitutional entitlement and a national duty for preserving democratic gains and correcting the course. The people are the ones who choose. They are the ones who redraw the political scene. A national phase in which everyone unites for the sake of the homeland. National Assembly Elections 2022, correcting the course.
Welcome back, our dear viewers, to our live coverage. We have with us in the studio our guest, Dr. Aid Al-Manna. We go back to our discussion, and this time we want to talk about the transparency and fairness. As you know, it's very crucial in the electoral process. Now, what are the main tools that should be used to achieve transparency and fairness in the parliament?
Actually, the main tools is the most important of that is the cooperation between the 2 authorities, the government and the National Assembly. They all colleagues in the same chamber, and they have to act within the frame of the Constitution, another with Article 98, which said that the government, upon its formation, should present its program, the government, its program to the National Assembly, and that the National Assembly should actually discuss this and express its point of view on the program. And afterward, this program should be the program of the government as a plan for the future.
Yes.
And this is, according to that, there must be a cooperation between the two, coordination with each other in this respect. The another tool actually is the respecting of the Constitution. There is a Constitution giving what is the function of the government, what the functions of the Parliament, and the role of each other. You know that the member of Parliament questions the ministers. They might actually form committees to investigate some of phenomena or problems. Also, we have this kind of grilling or interpretation, which is in Arabic istijwab.
Yes.
That must be actually also used if needed, and it's applied by a member of parliament or at maximum 3 members of parliament to the prime minister and also to the minister, also within their own competence as people in charge of these, for instance, the cabinet and the ministers. That's actually what, this is the democratic way of life. You have this kind. Also, the member of parliament might appeal for debate, for special events, for specific problem, all kind. That's the nation need to be debated and raised. The National Assembly, as a representative of the nation, must act in the cooperation with the government.
Yes. As you mentioned, the government will submit their program, and the members have the right to vote and discuss those different programs. Now, what are the measures taken by Kuwait's Transparency Society to guarantee the fairness of the electoral process?
Well, as a society, you know, this kind of society go through the areas, constituencies, and overseeing what's going on, trying to know all the things might be need to be corrected. That's kind of supervision to help the people there, whether the Ministry of Interior or another, and also to write a report about the election, whether it is done in a correct way or there are some thing of mistakes happened for the future, also to avoid such kind of mistakes or wrongdoing during the election time.
Yes. Do you think the observing bodies are effectively contributing in the electoral process here in Kuwait?
Anyway, they have the right to operate, and they are being given the chance to do their work, and it's up to them. They might have different views. They might have different measures to measure the correctness and the mistakes. I think mostly the Kuwaiti election are clear and transparent, and no criticism that's preventing the electorate to electors or the voters to exercise their right, or giving found people to vote. In some countries it might happen. This is actually in Kuwait, we are clear. They can go anywhere, they can ask any questions.
Yes, Dr. Aid, we're going to continue our discussions about the electoral process. But first, we have a report for our viewers about the Kuwait Transparency Society. Is a public interest society that was established to contribute towards improving the image of the state of Kuwait in the local and international spheres. We're going to hear more details about that, and then we will join Adla to give us the latest updates in our polling stations. Stay tuned.
Now let's join our correspondent Mohammed Leblouchi from the 4th constituency to provide us with more news updates.
I'm currently at the 4th constituency, and we are waiting, as we know, the Ministry of Justice has provided early in the morning judges and officials at the various subsidiary main electoral committees around the country, and their long-standing duty of preserving the integrity of the elections. And now they are processing the sort of the votings, and we're waiting for the results here at the Saad Al Abdallah High School.
Thank you, Mohammed Leblouchi.
بسم الله العلي القدير يفتتح الآن أعمال المجلس التأسيسي لدولة الكويت المستقلة.
إننا نعيش الآن في بلادنا نهضة شاملة لم يسبق لها مثيل.
إنني من على هذا المنبر أوجه بالنيابة عنكم تحية وتقدير واحترام لأهلنا في الكويت،
حتى نواصل العمل الذي لا يتوقف لخدمة الكويت العزيزة.
لقد أكدت بأنني من يحمي الدستور ولن أسمح بالمساس به.
مخلصين للعمل الجاد لخير ورفعة الكويت وأهلها الأوفياء.
اختيار القوي الأمين الذي يضع مصلحة الكويت وشعبها فوق كل اعتبار.
In our next report, Kuwait Transparency Society is a public interest society that was established to contribute towards improving the image of the state of Kuwait in the local and international spheres in the field of reform and combating of corruption by ways of highlighting the civilization and bright aspects of Kuwait. Now, the society's vision is towards a society for Kuwaiti civilians free of corruption with all its various types and forms. And to achieve this vision, the Kuwait Transparency Society works with all community stakeholders, institutions, and individuals. We have more details on that in the following report.
The Kuwait Transparency Society is a non-profit organization that works on a certain strategy aimed at reaching three main goals. First, to promote and disseminate values of transparency, integrity, and combat corruption through cooperation with the executive and legislative authorities, the media, and opinion leaders. Second, to strengthen the institutions of democratic governance, ensuring the integrity of the electoral process and fair representation for all voters, proposing laws that enhance freedom of speech and belief, and regulating political work with transparency and integrity. And third, to support and advocate for many important issues related to society, such as gender equality and female empowerment, youth empowerment, and children's protection and rights. The Kuwait Transparency Society has a chairman and a board of directors. which are responsible for all the decisions, strategies, and policies. The responsibilities are distributed to the members in addition to several committees that complement the board's work, such as the Values Committee and the Integrity and Governance Reinforcement Committee. In recent years, the Society has accomplished many achievements in the field of anti-corruption. That includes submitting a proposal for a law regarding the establishment of a central body for governance in the public sector, with the aim of increasing the level of transparency and disclosure in the government. The Kuwait Transparency Society, as a representative of the civil organizations in Kuwait, has formulated the National Anti-Corruption Strategy with the membership of 22 government agencies. In 2019-2020, the chairman of the board, Mr. Majid Al-Mtairi, represented the Kuwait Transparency Society as a member of the support team for the Transparency International TI for the 2020 to 2030 strategy to add the priorities of the Middle East and North Africa region among the priorities of the international movement. In further achievements, the Kuwait Transparency Society, in cooperation with the Public Authority for Anti-Corruption, Nazaha, has formed a team to follow up on the government's performance in dealing with repercussions of the health crisis COVID-19, and this was the first civil society's initiative on the local and regional level. The society has also participated as a representative of the civil society in drafting the executive regulations of the right of access to information law within a team of governmental experts and has contributed greatly to improving the final format of the regulations in line with the international experiences in this regard. The Society is now in the process of monitoring the implementations as well as training government agencies to implement the law in line with the transparency and anti-corruption standards.
National Assembly elections 2022, a constitutional entitlement and a national duty for preserving democratic gains and correcting the course. The people are the ones who choose. They are the ones who redraw the political scene. A national phase in which everyone unites for the sake of the homeland. National Assembly elections 2022, correcting the course.
Welcome back, our dear viewers. We're going to continue our discussions with Dr. Aid Al-Manna. This time, we're going to talk about the different mechanism here in Kuwait for the electoral process and see if there has been any changes done to it throughout the years. Now, recently, 2 emergency decrees were issued with new changes in the voting process, including the use of civil ID in the voting process. Now, Doctor, do you think that this measure will affect or improve the electoral process here in Kuwait?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important action has been taken, is that's making the people vote according to their address on their civil ID, because in the past some people actually live in area and vote in another area, and this is not fair actually, because the citizen in the area must actually vote in his constituency, and that's express the willing of these people and their demands within this area, not actually for the another one. And that's also because some of these people actually go to other areas either for tribal or sectarian reason, or unfortunately for purchasing their votes by others, and that's now cut this way and bringing these people to their real areas or constituency. One really, I think it is one of the best has been taken to make it clear that some of these people actually were immigrating to another. Now they are returning to their constituencies, and that's in their interest and the interest of their constituency.
Yes. Now, with that change being inserted in the electoral process, do you think in this election we're going to see new faces? Or, from your observation today when you went to the polling station, do you think there would be more role for the youth to take part in the parliament in this coming election?
I expect there will be a change. It might be between 15 to 20% of the members of parliament, but it's not that a great change, because also the tribes will elect some of them people. Also the religious people or the sectarians will go to their own people. They know them very well. The families also do the same. But generally speaking, I think we will have, to a great extent, a qualified parliament by their education and their ambition to take Kuwait for more progressive way and make it a country not depending on the oil revenues, but on a diversification of source of income, and that's the most important. And tackling all the problems, whether in housing or education or health or the problem of the Budun, all these must be tackled within the parliament we are today electing, and we hope it will achieve a great achievement for Kuwait, which is deserved to be one of the best in the world.
Yes, and for the aspiration of the Kuwaiti
Definitely.
citizens for the future. Now, during the last parliamentary elections in 2020, His Highness the Emir Sheikh Nawaf Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah had reaffirmed the commitment to national unity as the most powerful weapon against all challenges, dangers, and crises. His Highness the Emir called on citizens for good selection of their future parliament members and stated that the loyalty of Kuwaitis should always be for their nation. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Nawaf Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah affirmed that the national unity was a fence that protects the country and its people and a fortress against adversity and challenges. Now we're going to see more on that in the following report.
His Highness the Emir Sheikh Nawaf Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah stressed the need of cohesion among Kuwaitis to achieve reform, underlining the importance of national unity in protecting the country and facing challenges. Kuwait is a state of prosperity and stability, but it was also a country that had suffered an invasion and an occupation of all its territories, during which its people banded together in solidarity and overcame it under the symbol of national unity. The state of Kuwait reasserted its national identity after the life-changing event of the Iraqi invasion, and in times of hardship, the Kuwaiti people affirmed their loyalty to their country with cohesion, sparing no effort to protect the homeland and assert its stability and security. In October of 1990, during the Jeddah Conference in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, that was held during the Iraqi occupation of Kuwait, Kuwaitis were summoned from all parts of the world to attend in a show of solidarity. The conference ended with a public commitment to democracy and a display of the unity of the Kuwaiti people. Kuwaiti democracy has prevailed in spite of all challenges through the Kuwaiti people and their collective participation in nation building and enhancing domestic stability. After independence in 1961, the Kuwaiti society was transformed from the traditional form of the participatory governing to a more institutionalized democratic process. In the post-Iraq war period, the spotlight on nation building was linked to democratic practices, motivating the Kuwaiti people to regard their civil duties and roles as individuals in society and the state as intrinsic and essential. This mindset could be seen reflected in the increased voting activity in the post-war period. In October 2012, His Highness the late Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah introduced the Single Non-Transferable Vote System SNTV in an effort to preserve national unity and to strengthen the practice of democracy. The roots of participatory politics have been embedded in the very fabric of society, seen as a national duty to serve the country through fair, democratic, and representative means.
Welcome back, our dear viewers, to our live coverage of the National Assembly 2022. We had with us tonight our guest, Dr. Aid Al-Manna, who shared a lot of his analysis about the elections here in Kuwait. And we would like to thank him for coming tonight and joining us in this show. Dr. Aid Al-Manna, a professor of political sciences at Kuwait University and also a political analyst. Thank you.
I'm not in Kuwait University actually, but I'm a specialist anyhow.
Okay, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to take a short break and we'll be back with you with more of this live coverage.
بسم الله العلي القدير يفتتح الآن أعمال المجلس التأسيسي لدولة الكويت المستقلة.
إننا نعيش الآن في بلادنا نهضة شاملة لم يسبق لها مثيل.
إنني من على هذا المنبر أوجه بالنيابة عنكم تحية وتقدير واحترام لأهلنا في الكويت
حتى نواصل العمل الذي لا يتوقف لخدمة الكويت العزيزة.
لقد تأكدت بأنني من يحمي الدستور ولن أسمح بالمساس به.
مخلصين للعمل الجاد لخير ورفعة الكويت وأهلها الأوفياء.
اختيار القوي الأمين الذي يضع مصلحة الكويت وشعبها فوق كل اعتبار.
That brings us to the end of today's special live coverage of Kuwait's National Assembly elections 2022. Hoping that you enjoyed tonight's discussion with our dear guest, Dr. Aid Al-Manna. And big thanks to my colleague, Adla Dumourey, and our correspondents in the fields, Mohammed Khalaf, Iman Ramadan, Mohammed Al-Jasmi, Mohammed Al-Blushi, and Farid Dashti.